総督府は君に大きな期待をして。
Untitled 적의 밀정을 척살한다.
넌 이 나라가 독립이 될 것 같냐? 어차피 기울어진 배야. 막당과 계존이 하이라나 요원이 있었어. 김우진을 들이대는다. 이내 다 돌렸어. 아시모토가 그쪽으로 왔다. 지금 2차의 당일의 단어 중에 한 놈이 밀정이야. 바로 그 놈이 밀정인 거죠.
Released in 2016, The Age of Shadows is a period action thriller movie which won Best Film at the 36th Korean Critics' Choice Awards and was selected as South Korea's entry for Best Foreign Language Film at the Oscars. The movie is directed by director Kim Ji-woon, who's known for having a wide diverse range of film genres and is considered one of the most popular and acclaimed figures among modern Korean directors and screenwriters. Known for movies such as A Bittersweet Life, A Tale of Two Sisters, I Saw the Devil, The Good, the Bad, the Weird, and his US directorial debut, The Last Stand with Arnold Schwarzenegger. The movie also has an impressive cast, with Song Kang-ho, who's worked in many of Kim Ji-woon's movies and is famously known for his roles in The Host, A Taxi Driver, Snowpiercer, and most recently Parasite, which won 4 Oscars. His character is a Korean police captain who's charged by the Japanese colonial government with rooting out members of the Korean resistance movement. The movie also stars Gong Yoo, who's known for being in the movie Silence and Train to Busan, as well as television dramas Coffee Prince and Guardian. His character is a key resistance figure whose antique shop is a front to smuggle explosives from Shanghai into Seoul. Now for a summary on the plot of the movie. Set in Shanghai and Seoul in the 1920s, the movie revolves around a Korean policeman, Lee Jung-chol, who's told by the Japanese to capture a group of resistance fighters trying to smuggle explosives from Shanghai into Seoul. During this task, he faces an internal dilemma of changing allegiances. At the start, Jung-chol was known for having a history of selling out his own people to the Japanese for his personal benefit. However, he's hit harder than usual when he's tasked to arrest Kim Jang-ok, a resistance fighter who used to be his classmate, which results in Jung-ok committing suicide in front of Jung-chol to avoid capture. The leader of the resistance group that Kim Jong-ok belonged to realizes that Jung-chol might have mixed feelings towards the Japanese after Jung-ok's suicide, so he tasks Kim Woo-jin, a key resistance member, to turn Jung-chol towards the side of the resistance. Jung-chol goes with Woo-jin to Shanghai, where he meets resistance leaders Chae-san, and Woo-jin asks Jung-chol for a safe passage back to Seoul while smuggling explosives. Jung-chol ultimately agrees by giving the Japanese false information on the resistance members' route to Seoul. On the train boarding to Seoul, Jung-chol tells Woo-jin that one of his resistance members is a spy for the Japanese and that the police now know they're on the train. After an intense battle on the train, the resistance members make it out but are caught when they arrive in Seoul. Woo-jin manages to escape but is later tracked down and captured. The resistance members are then tortured and arrested, but Lee Jung-chol manages to be set free by lying and saying he was simply gathering information on the resistance on behalf of the Japanese. However, at the end, Lee Jung-chol finishes the resistance's plan to blow up a Japanese police celebration to kill many high-ranked Japanese government officials. Now that we've talked about the summary of the movie's plot, let's discuss what I learned about real-life Korean history, people, and context that the movie was inspired from. The movie is set in the 1920s, and indeed, in real life, the 1920s had a rise in Korean resistance movements because of the 1919 March 1st movement. The movie is also largely based in Shanghai, with the resistance members attempting to smuggle explosives from Shanghai into Seoul. Hence, the movie shows Shanghai as a key location for the resistance movement. This is also based on real-life history, since the Korean Provisional Government was initially based in Shanghai and formed in 1919 shortly after the March 1st movement. Hence, Shanghai was a hotspot for independence activists because they were able to set up offices to discuss ways to find breakthrough in the independence movement, free from Japanese influence, since Shanghai was a transportation hub with many foreign delegates. Speaking of foreign delegates, the movie shows foreign assistance in the Korean independence movement through the character of Ludwig, a Hungarian armed smuggler who helps the Korean resistance members. Indeed, in real life, the Korean independence movement had foreign assistance, such as from expatriate liberation groups active in many parts around the world, such as China, Russia, as well as the cities of Hawaii, San Francisco, and Los Angeles in America. Secondly, the movie shows the resistance members planning to bomb a Japanese police celebration. There were indeed Korean independence fighters who bombed Japanese institutions. Like the resistance group shown in the movie, there were resistance organizations that fought for independence by assassinating high-ranking Japanese officials and committing acts of terrorism against government offices. The resistance group in the movie is believed to be based on the real-life resistance organization, the Heroic Corps, who are also later based in Shanghai, similar to the movie. The movie's plot to bomb the police celebration is loosely based on the Heroic Corps' bombing of Jongno Police Station in 1923. The character of Kim Jong-ok at the beginning of the movie is said to be based on Kim Sang-ok, a member of the Heroic Corps who also managed to escape multiple police officers before committing suicide to avoid capture. Meanwhile, the character of Lee Jung-chol is said to be based on Hwang Ok, a key figure of the famous incident who helped the Heroic Corps carry bombs into Korea, but confessed he was secret agent of Japan after he was arrested for the mission. The character of Kim Woo-jin is based on Kim Si-hyun, another member of the Heroic Corps, while leader Jung Chae-san is modeled after Kim Won-bong. There were many things in The Age of Shadows that make it a memorable movie that's unique and stands out. I felt the characters of the movie were much more well-developed, complex, being multi-dimensional with many layers, not being obviously good or bad or falling into the usual binaries of hero-villain, but rather falling somewhere in between, which made them feel more relatable, more realistic, and more interesting to watch. Lee Jung-chol in particular stood out to me with his character development as he transitioned from a selfish traitor who was a Japanese policeman to a Korean resistance member. His character was morally ambiguous, flawed, unpredictable, with us wondering which side he was on until the very end of the movie. I felt like he brought a fresh new perspective on the experience of Koreans under Japan's rule, since it showed that not all Koreans could be resistance members or independence activists, and that many probably had to be like Lee Jung-chol at the start, working under the Japanese for survival or for their own personal benefit, since that's part of human nature. I think Song Kang-ho did a brilliant job at playing Lee Jung-chol by acting out his character's internal dilemma and changing allegiances perfectly with the right amount of subtlety. The characters' more complex, mysterious, unpredictable personalities fit well with the plot of the movie and its genre of being an action thriller. The director does a really good job in maintaining suspense and tension throughout the movie. The best example of this, I think, was the scene on the train, which was probably my favorite moment of the movie and overall brilliantly done. However, because of the many characters' complex personalities, I do think it can sometimes be confusing to keep up with all of the characters and what side they're on. But this might make the movie more enjoyable for some. I also think the movie can be a little slow at moments that are unimportant to the overall message and plot. For example, I felt like the subtle love story between resistance members Woo-jin and Yeon was unnecessary, and the movie could have either done without it or should have developed it more. Also, the ending felt a bit rushed since the movie focuses most of its time on the internal dilemma of Jung-chol. That him being shown as a resistance member at the end of the movie felt rushed, and I wish we got to see him as a resistance member more. Overall, it's still a brilliant movie with a solid plot based on real-life Korean history, along with a brilliant director and cast.